Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'd like to observe protocol to the Honorable Kerry Simmons, MP, Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, and Mrs. Francine Blackman, the Permanent Secretary in the Division of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Ministry of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Mr. Glen Thorpe, Chairman of the Technical Management Subcommittee of the BNSI Board of Directors, and other Board of Directors, Mr. Hadyn, Acting Director, Barbados National Standards Institution, Mr. Deryck Omar, Chief Executive Officer of the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, and other CROSSCO officials, Mrs. Andrea Power, Coordinator, Regional Cooperation and Integration, the Caribbean Development Bank, and other CDB officials, business executives and captains of industry, distinguished guests from other ministries, departments, and agencies of government, and other quality infrastructure institutions. Ms. Renate Lynn, our project coordinator for the BNSI Modernization Project, staff of the Barbados National Standards Institution, staff of the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, members and clients of the BNSI, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the BNSI's Visibility Webinar, BNSI Beyond 2021 for a Quality Culture. It is an honor to welcome everyone to our beautiful event today. Regrettably, because of the pandemic, you're not able to be physically there in person to see, but nevertheless, we'll use this virtual format. We are glad to have you here with us as we highlight progress the BNSI has made, specifically with our laboratory infrastructure and also with other work that the BNSI has in its programming. We appreciate your presence at our Visibility Webinar, especially during these difficult times. My name is Fabian Scott. I am the Chief Technical Officer responsible for specifications development, quality control, and certification. The Barbados National Standards Institution is the lead agency in the national quality infrastructure. We are committed to establishing and bringing to maturity a quality culture in Barbados. In support of this realization, our improved laboratory facility brings practical support to that goal. Quality test results, building quality projects. But more so than improved laboratory facilities, we want to present to you BNSI Beyond 2021 for a quality culture. The purpose of this webinar is to share the vision of the BNSI in the continuing development of a national quality culture and to inform you, members, clients, and stakeholders of the projects and initiatives currently being undertaken by the institution. During this visibility webinar, you will hear the BNSI's vision for Beyond 2021. Our improved laboratory facility will benefit the laboratory services our clients utilize. New service offerings being developed during the COVID-19 pandemic that seek to increase consumer confidence and restore economic activity. Here we are talking about service offerings our members have told us are relevant and focused on their business needs. So please accept my warm greetings for the remainder of this event. I trust you will enjoy the exciting presentations to come. We want to thank you very much for your time and attention for being here at our Visibility Webinar. So I am going to call next on the Chief Executive Officer of the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, Mr. Deryck Omar, to deliver a few remarks. Mr. Omar.
Good day, good morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. All protocols being observed, and I do hope everybody is hearing and seeing me. And in the process of recognizing all the protocols that just went, I would like to pay a special tribute to Dr. Dudley Rhynd, who is with us here today. And it's wonderful he is here with us because today we meet talk about BNSI Beyond 2021 for a quality culture. And Dr. Rhynd was one of the founders or the founding fathers of not only the national quality infrastructure that would lead to the quality culture in Barbados, but he was also one of the founding fathers for the regional quality infrastructure, out of which CrossQ was born. With that being said, I thank you very much for allowing CrossQ to be part of this fraternity of learners today, and welcome with you, Mr. Scott, all the stakeholders, shareholders, and donors who are with us, and members of your board of directors. So today we speak about BNSI Beyond 2021 for a quality culture. Now, a quality culture can be defined as a culture of quality consciousness and continuous improvement, both in our thoughts, our words, our attitudes, and our deeds as citizens. So it's nothing strange because everybody, I think, can relate to quality consciousness in your home, how you buy goods, how you sell goods, and stocks that you eat too, as well as we are all looking for continuous improvement because that's how life evolves. So the job of BNSI is to help further develop this quality culture that exists by promoting greater quality consciousness and continuous improvement in all that we do as citizens of Barbados and even the wider community. Now that leads me to the point, if the objective of BNSI is to promote a quality culture, then the question is, well, how do they do that? Is likewise, how do the other member states in CARICOM, for which we coordinate the work, do that? Member state develops their quality culture by developing a quality infrastructure. And you have a national quality infrastructure and a regional quality infrastructure, as well as all are linked to an international quality infrastructure. What is this quality infrastructure that is used in a very clinical way to help organizations like BNSI achieve a national quality culture? Well, a quality infrastructure refers to the institutional framework, including its systems and people involved in the development and implementation of standards and technical regulations, metrology, accreditation, conformity assessment services, and the promotion of quality. Now, all that sounds like technical jargon, but everybody lives this quality infrastructure on a daily basis. For example, in the area of standards, standards are just documents that define quality. When you buy something in the grocery and it has a label on it, that label defines the quality of the product. So that is a standard of sorts. So we all understand standards and the importance of it. Sometimes standards have to be made compulsory so that people comply with it for health and safety reasons. And that's where technical regulations or laws are developed and that refer to standards to make it legal. And I think a lot of us have been understanding the legalities of standards, especially when we have been watching the COVID protocols that have been coming out and that are based upon health standards themselves. That part, so now that we have these standards and we have labels to look at that are reflective of standards of quality, you would notice that these labels have dimensional units attached to them. The weight of the ingredients, like in milligrams, the volume of the ingredients, like in liters or quarts. Some might even have pressure measurements or length measurements. Well, that's called metrology. So all metrology is, it's just dimensional standards that we all are accustomed with. And the bureaus of standards like BNSI are responsible for measurement standards in countries, as well as documentation standards like labels that define quality. Then the question will be, well, if you have these standards, who is ensuring that people or traders meet these standards? And that's where the third part of quality infrastructure comes in, which is conformity assessment services. So in some countries, the bureaus of standards are involved in inspection and testing and certification of products and even services against these standards of metrology or quality. And in Barbados, you have your Ministry of Commerce, I believe, who plays a big role in conformity assessment along with the Bureau in terms of doing quality inspections, certification, and testing of products and services. Last but not least, the Bureau of Standards, as well as other quality institutions, such as your agricultural institutions, they would be involved in promoting and raising the awareness of persons in quality and what it means to have a quality consciousness. So the beauty about today is that BNSI is trying to reduce the mysticism about quality culture development, and which we all know as just quality consciousness and continuous improvement. And BNSI is also trying to educate and showcase everybody's role in the development and use of standards, technical regulations to make standards more enforceable at the legal level, metrology, which is the science of measurement and how to keep accurate and traceable measurement, all those things the Bureau does. And further, BNSI is trying to showcase today how it works with the ministry and other organizations to inspect, test, and certify against quality. And the beauty about BNSI is that it not only does that at the national level, but we at CrossQ, who coordinate the work of the various bureaus of standards in member states to create a regional reflective of what happens at your national level. Barbados is very instrumental at the regional level, helping to coordinate all this work between the bureaus in all these areas, as well as the other bureaus of standards in the member states of CARICOM. And hence CrossQ's role and function is to coordinate that system to develop a regional quality infrastructure to achieve regional quality consciousness and quality competitiveness. Getting down into the nitty-gritty now of how Barbados uses its national quality infrastructure to achieve national quality consciousness and regional quality consciousness. Barbados joins us in the forcing the development and the implementation of a number of regional projects in which they participate, both to help a regional implementation of these projects, but also to help a national implementation of the national component of these projects. So in the area of standards development, BNSI right now is involved in the development of at least 25 regional standards with the other member states to help us develop standards related to health, food safety, natural disaster management, and the quality of products that are traded. One of those standards is very prominent now, and that is how can we design front of packaging labeling to give people quickly early warning signs that a product may be too far ahead in salt or sugar or calories or fat. The area of metrology or dimensional measurement of weight and volumes and things like that. Right now, BNSI has a wonderful project that they have included us in with the Caribbean Development Bank to develop their metrology capacity in their lab. And we're now looking and working with BNSI on their compression testing equipment for concrete that you will hear more about in a short while, which complements their skills in mass, volume, temperature, and humidity measurements. BNSI recently contributed in a major way to the development and training of ISO management system standards 9001, which is quality management systems, and business risk or business continuity, which is the ISO 33001 series of standards. They just were participative in a train the trainers module across the Caribbean in that area. And BNSI was just part of a recent training and the development of a regional manual on how to interpret the European Union labeling standards for prepackaged goods, so it would help companies export from this region to the EU. I was very instrumental recently to help us develop the good regulatory practice guidelines that all member states hopefully will soon be using to develop laws for the mandatory implementation of standards, such as these laws do not contradict any WTO agreements. BNSI is also and has been a key proponent in developing and using labeling standards for appliances that they're helping us now to export into the region to develop a regional model. And BNSI is working with us now to roll out what we all developed, which is a CARICOM regional energy efficiency building code. And as recently as September, BNSI included CrossQ on a regional project to help the development of an implementation plan to introduce more quality systems and metrology systems in the agro-processing industry. Right now, BNSI has been speaking to us about bringing a national quality award to Barbados. They have been speaking to us more about how we can expand the certification and accreditation of companies and laboratories for international recognizable results in Barbados. And they are working with us to develop a modality where the BNSI can be the control body for the issuance of geographical indications for products coming out of Barbados, such that these products get branded and nobody could copy their brands internationally. So we've had a wonderful historical relationship, regional level with BNSI through Dr. Rhynd and the colleagues of BNSI. And now we continue well into the future with his son, Mr. Rhynd, ably assisted by people like Mr. Scott as CTO and Lynn and Seeley and others. And we really appreciative that BNSI has included CrossQ in this national development that we can learn from and export further into the region on helping Barbados build a national quality culture in this country. So with that, I hope I've tried to simplify what is national quality culture, what is national quality infrastructure, and the contributions BNSI has been making now and well into the future, along with that partnership of CrossQ that we really cherish. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, CEO, for your kind words. And you spoke about the historical relationship which continues to this day. Thank you for that. We note you also mentioned about what really is a quality culture at the granular level, what it means to persons, and also this mystery people when they hear the word quality infrastructure institutions, what it really means. So thank you for that very much clear explanation you gave. I would now like to call on Mr. Glen Thorpe, who is the chairman of the Technical Management Committee of the BNSI Board of Directors and also himself a director of the BNSI board, to deliver some remarks to you. So, Mr. Thorpe, please.
Thank you very much, Fabian. So the Honorable Minister Carrie Simmons, Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Francine Blackman, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Mr. Hadyn Rhynd, Acting Director of the Barbados National Standards Institute. Fellow board members of the BNSI, Mr. Deryck Omar, CEO of CrossQ, delegates of the Caribbean Development Bank, BNSI staff, CrossQ staff, specially invited guests from the private sector, distinguished guests from other public agencies and quality institutions, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to address you this morning at this virtual webinar, BNSI Beyond 2021 for a Quality Culture. Now, approximately 2 years ago, a decision was made by the present government to restructure the BNSI, having investigated the governance arrangement of the institution and found them to be a bit complicated and somewhat unsupportive of the objectives of strengthening the institutional management capacity of the country's national standards body, namely the BNSI. It was therefore determined that greater support was needed in the country's effort to modernize the entire Barbados National Standards System and develop modern operational systems within the BNSI. A new governance of the BNSI, which is more in line with a flexible, efficient, and effective organization that will provide greater support to the development of the country's national quality infrastructure, which we just heard quite a bit about. The BNSI is now championed by 13 of us as members of the board of directors. I have the opportunity and the privilege to be one of those members. And as Mr. Scott just mentioned, I am the chair of the Technical Management Committee of the board. Now, the importance of the BNSI is better understood when we appreciate that international standards are really one way to overcome some of the technical barriers in international commerce. This is caused by differences among technical regulations and standards, which are developed independently and separately by each nation, national standards organizations, or businesses. This visibility forum today is part of our national promotional strategy to make key stakeholders such as yourselves fully aware of the importance of a well-developed quality infrastructure system. This will cover essential aspects such as policy, institutions, service providers, and the value-adding use of international standards and conformity assessment procedures. At this stage, I would like to applaud the efforts of the board of directors along with the management and staff of the BNSI, where we are now well on our way to moving the institution to a new strategic position of influence in the country. Over the short period, the board has successfully been able to guide the decision-making and strategic initiatives of the institution and has performed a strategic review to establish new priorities, objectives, and management strategies to achieve its objectives. The BNSI, as part of its renewed purpose, is clearly defined to have the lead responsibility to promote standardization, for producing technical standards on a wide range of products and services, and for providing certification and standard-related services to businesses, organizations, and various relevant publics. The mission of the BNSI has been revised to have greater focus, where it is recognized that BNSI plays a leading role in facilitating trade and commerce by educating stakeholders and by promoting the adoption of a well-developed national quality infrastructure by all sectors of the Barbadian society. The strategic vision of the BNSI is to re-establish the institution as being the leading standards body in the region when measured by innovation, effectiveness, and impact on our society. I am confident that the strategies outlined in our newly developed Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025, along with the policy recommendations of the National Quality Policy being proposed, this is still in draft, but it will provide the needed direction to the government regarding quality, standards, and technical regulations in terms of both goods and services. BNSI has repositioned itself to better provide significant support to the policy and institutional framework needed for the implementation of quality initiatives in virtually all segments of the Barbadian society and economy. One of our major successes, which will be discussed even more later today and in greater detail during the presentations to follow, outlines the completion only days ago of phase 1 of an infrastructure retrofitting project to modernize the laboratory services of the BNSI. The conclusion of this phase results in improved work conditions for BNSI laboratory staff and reduced environmental hazards, greater support to businesses in satisfying regulatory requirements, including calibration and verification of new instruments covered under the new Metrology Act, and increased capacity to satisfy customer needs, including the regional demand for services and increasingly the foreign exchange earning capacity of the BNSI. Implementation of the BNSI strategic plan will result in the continued phased approach to complete modernization of the BNSI laboratory services over the next 3 years, where the capacity and capability of the laboratory services will be significantly improved and increased, therefore enabling it to attain laboratory accreditation and perform tests and calibrations that are mutually accepted in export markets under agreements such as the EPA, as well as providing a working environment that satisfies local safety and health at work regulations. Our journey ahead, my friends, building the country's quality infrastructure in a post-COVID-19 environment will not come without various challenges. However, we are optimistic as a board of directors that with full governmental support and support of the Barbadian private sector, along with the members and staff of the BNSI, we are poised to offer considerable support to the economic, social, environmental, and sustainable development of our beautiful country, Barbados. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Director Thorpe, for your kind words, indicating the contribution of the board of directors to the new strategic direction and place of influence of the BNSI and the work in guiding and steering that effort. At this time, I'd like to issue some apologies and absences. Unfortunately, the Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry are unable to make and deliver remarks today. They offer their apologies. In addition to that, I would also like to issue an apology on behalf of the Chairman, who is unwell today and unable to speak. Just want to issue those, and therefore we are going to have a slight rearrangement of the agenda for your notation. So next to deliver the feature remarks will be the Acting Director of the Barbados National Standards Institution, Mr. Hadyn Rhynd. So he will deliver remarks on behalf of the BNSI. So Mr. Rhynd, please, if you can deliver your feature remarks. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Good morning to all of the participants and the members. Having established the full protocols, I do want, however, to thank all of the participants for your time. We understand the importance, of course, of quality, and that importance cannot be overstated. Part of the solution really to our economic problems and our economic challenges lie in increasing our industrial activity and our export sector. And this can only be achieved, in our view, if we really rely on a strategy of quality. Why? Because we have high inputs in Barbados in terms of the inputs to our goods and our services. We also have a relatively high labor cost. So the starting point for our goods and services tends to be relatively high. How then can we compete? And we can only be competitive if we embrace quality as a strategy and as a national strategy. So it really is my distinct pleasure to address you at this BNSI visibility webinar. BNSI Beyond 2021 for a quality culture. Of course, I would like to thank the CEO of CrossQ, Deryck Omar, in explaining in a very palatable way what this quality infrastructure system, is all about. CrossQ over the years has played a tremendous role in assisting the BNSI, not just as a standards bureau, but also as a national metrology institute. Mr. Omar would have outlined a lot of the work with the BNSI and CrossQ and the regional partners, where we're really positioning the institution to develop quality infrastructure. So we're eternally grateful for CrossQ's support, not just in terms of QI, but the technical support that we've received from CrossQ over the years. Of course, I would like to thank the board of directors as well, and Mr. Thorpe for his remarks. We have had tremendous success over just 18 months with the board in place. We were able to approve over 45 national standards in a very short period of time, ranging not just for support of industrial and export sectors, but food, health, the environment, safety, tourism. And we really appreciate the effort the board has played in really guiding and repositioning the organization to be a flexible, responsive organization. Of course, we're looking forward to the presentations on the laboratory retrofit to follow. We've been very, very excited about this season because for quite some time, we were trying to position the laboratory for improvements. The improvements include environmental conditions, of course, for our staff and our guests and the clients, but more so the capacity of the laboratory really to satisfy that demand in country. So I thank all of the staff of the BNSI, especially in the laboratory services, for the efforts that they've played over the years. So in Barbados, now more than ever, we must do our part to safeguard the quality of life that most of us have grown accustomed to. All Barbadians, residents, and indeed visitors to our lovely shores must work together to mitigate this global crisis, which is posing challenges to humanity that have never been experienced before. The journey to recovery begins and ends with a quality culture, and that was ably described by Mr. Omar. And we understand that we need to do all that we can. There's a motto, do the things that work and work well. And inside of that really resides quality. A country is considered to have a world-class quality culture when quality is embedded in the psyche of the country and is exemplified by all of its actions, including the actions performed by everyone from the leaders of government to the ordinary man in the street. So the result of such a culture defined by quality is clearly demonstrated not only by financial results, but with the country's ability to obtain what we call delight, customer delight, at every level of engagement. And with this in mind, the development of a country's NQI, as you've heard, is critical. The BNSI is one of the main drivers of NQI, which is a critical enabler for social progress, economic development, participation in international trade, and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So setting up an effective and efficient NQI system is one of the most constructive steps that a developing nation can implement on the path towards establishing a thriving economy and building on growth and prosperity and health and well-being. So globally, exports and imports face an increasing number of restrictions in the form of increased standards or technical regulations that must be adhered to for products to cross borders. Barbados's exports are not exempt from this environment. A well-defined NQI will provide a robust system for contributing to governmental policy objectives in areas including industrial development, trade competitiveness in global markets, efficient use of natural and human resources, food safety, health, the environment, and of course, climate change. It offers a complete package addressing the needs of the nation's citizens, of customers and consumers, and of enterprises and other organizations that offer them products and services. So to develop this supportive NQI system, what we have to consider is the most effective combination of initiatives, of institutions, of organizations, both public and private, activities and people. And it includes and is guided by a national quality policy. You would have heard Director Thorpe touch on what is being proposed as our country's national quality policy, along with the institutional structures to implement it, a regulatory framework, quality service providers, enterprises, customers, and consumers. So I am pleased to indicate that in this light, the Cabinet of Barbados has approved the drafting of a Barbados National Quality Policy created by the Ministry of Energy, Small Business, and Entrepreneurship. And this quality policy, upon implementation, is expected to facilitate Barbados's access to global markets and enhance the competitiveness of our goods and services, produce and strengthen the capacity of micro, small, and medium enterprises and entrepreneurs to flourish and succeed in the domestic, intra-regional, and extra-regional markets. The policy will establish the institutional framework needed for the implementation of quality initiatives in virtually all segments of the Barbadian society. The deployment of quality as a competitive strategy is expected to result in the continuous improvement of said quality of our goods and services, as well as increased productivity. So as you would appreciate, this approach enables Barbados to establish itself well above just mere compliance to global trading rules, but more so to transition to become globally integrated and to become a competitive trading partner. I'm sure that several of the private businesses attending this session this morning can attest to, the various challenges that you've encountered in order to cope and comply with regulations and perhaps even adapt to regulatory changes, especially when dealing with export markets, if any of you export. So good regulatory practices help create a stable and enabling regulatory environment for investment, trade, and entrepreneurship. And this supports healthy economies and regional competitiveness. You would have heard CEO of CrossQ speak about these good regulatory practices. So in this regard, we're also in the process of assisting the government in establishing National Quality Council. And this council is intended to be responsible for the implementation of the National Quality Policy. So we appreciate the good work again of my colleagues at the standards body, and BNSI will be an integral part of the Quality Council, functioning in the capacity to inform on all international standards, which will be part of the process of developing technical regulations. So in keeping with international best practice for good regulatory practices, the intention is to have Barbados's private sector represented on the council when it's established, of course. And this gives a voice to the sector in the developmental process, and it ensures full transparency full impartiality. The council will also have other governmental and non-governmental agencies represented. And this ensures that the country's process of developing technical regulations will always be compliant, especially with regards to agreements on technical barriers to trade, or TBTs, which again, you heard made mention earlier. I am aware that the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, who, they've joined us this morning as well on the sessions, and they're also a critical department within our ministry, and they've been part of a national metrology team. And that team was responsible for the development of a new piece of legislation, which will be introduced quite soon. And this is namely the Barbados National Metrology Act. And this act is a comprehensive act when it's proclaimed, and it will address all aspects of metrology in Barbados. Not only will the legislation speak to ensuring that all measurement standards to be used are in compliance with international standards, it also ensures that all measuring instruments are metrologically traceable. It sounds like big words, but it's just that there's a line, a clear traceability line to international standards and an international system of units. And that covers critical aspects of metrology of both BNSI and the DCCA, which is the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. So for quite some time, the laboratory services of BNSI as a key pillar in developing the country's quality infrastructure has been in need of support and upgrade. And it is with great pleasure that today I can announce the completion of phase 1 of the project to retrofit and to modernize the existing laboratory phases. That's just phase 1. And you would have heard Director Thorpe indicate that over 3 years, we intend to complete the 3 phases of this modernization. Now, the phased approach is expected to provide satisfactory laboratory services for testing capabilities to be developed in select critical areas, deriving several benefits, including the improved work conditions, the increased capacity in priority metrology and testing areas, increased foreign exchange, and the earning potential from external clients who would now utilize our lab, and increased support for the regulatory requirements of businesses like yourself. So as part of this morning's agenda, presentations of the work done in the lab will be made, and I'm looking forward to those presentations. And this would outline the improvements that we've made and the benefits and so on of keeping international requirements. Many of you may have heard as well of the Safe Business Verification Stamp. And this is developed by the BNSI. And this stamp allows companies to visibly demonstrate that their organization has implemented safe protocols based on international standards and international best practices as it relates to occupational health and to safety and good management systems. So satisfying the guidelines of the stamp not only adds another level of protection to employees and customers, but will also aid in returning a sense of confidence to business clients, partners, and entities interacting with businesses in Barbados. In fact, later in the discussions, it's anticipated that we will be enlightened by testimonies of a few businesses who have gained tremendously from engaging with the BNSI, engaging as a member. We are membership based. So if you're not a member already, I would like to invite you to be and join the institution as a member. And within membership, we will conduct the entire Safe Business program within the value of being a member at no additional cost necessary. So I encourage all of you who have not done so to look into the benefits of joining the institution as a member and as part of the quality culture and the professionals that the institution, are building. So next, I will send you to our moderator, Mr. Scott. I know that Ms. Seeley, the project coordinator for the modernization, she is going to present to you next. It must be said that for the duration of the retrofit, Ms. Seeley has really spearheaded that entire effort. And from my chair, I would like to express gratitude and appreciation, Lynn, for completing that phase 1. Ably supported, of course, by Ms. Sadie-Ann Sisnett, who presents after Lynn from CrossQ, Nicol Bess as well, you were here from CrossQ. And you have to be careful when you single out praise for individuals, but there is a senior technician working for years in the soils and materials laboratory, none other than Mr. Keith Bess. And Keith is here with us. He will also present. And it must be said that a lot of the progress that our construction sector has had in building quality systems, in having materials and inputs which satisfy not just national but international standards, really has the support of the gentlemen in the laboratory, Mr. Keith Bess, Mr. Stephen Harris, Mr. Tyrone Scandalberg. But I really wanted to single out Mr. Bess, who, for all intents and purposes, has pioneered a lot of the advancements in soils and materials testing, and we are forever grateful to your efforts, Mr. Bess. So thank you for your attention, and over to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rhynd, for your stirring remarks. We make note of your mention of the national quality policy, which is the driver for much of the quality culture implementation in Barbados. And in addition to that, you mentioned some of the achievements of the BNSI in the publication of standards and other work with respect to meeting the needs of our stakeholders with respect to the COVID-19 pandemic. So thank you very much, sir. This will bring an end to part 1 of our visibility webinar, which is about, spoke to the vision of the BNSI Beyond 2021. We will now go into part 2, which is going to more address promoting of a quality culture. And to do that, first will be Ms. Renate Lynn, who is coordinating the modernization of the laboratory at BNSI, and she will be here to deliver some remarks to you. Ms. Seeley, please.
Thank you so much, Fabian. So my remarks are actually going to take the form of a brief presentation. And to do this, I have enlisted the assistance of Ms. Latoya Burnham of CrossQ. Again, just highlighting the unwavering support that we always have from CrossQ when we do these things. Latoya is going to assist me. So I'm going to turn off my camera and share the screen, and you have the presentation. Can everyone see it clearly?
Yes, Lynn, thank you.
Excellent, wonderful, thank you so much. So welcome again, everyone. I am Lynn Seeley. I am the project coordinator for the BNSI Lab Modernization Project, phase 1 that you've heard so much about this morning, and we are extremely excited at BNSI to present. May I have the next slide, please, Latoya? So what are the objectives of this project? Well, to modernize the physical and technological infrastructure of the BNSI lab services. We've heard about the retrofitting the existing facilities through a phased approach, and to satisfy the current and projected priority of metrology and testing needs of the industry. We have also mentioned that this project is just the beginning, and we are expecting over the next 3 years to address several phases moving forward. Next slide, please, Latoya. So we'd like to start with our institutional capacity. Now, what do we mean when we talk about the institutional capacity of the BNSI? The BNSI is currently involved in a project with the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, developing the BNSI Mass Metrology Lab by the end of 2022. This is under a grant agreement with strengthening of the Regional Quality Infrastructure Program in Barbados, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, my colleague, Mrs. Sadie-Ann Sisnett, she is going to give you a comprehensive description of this project. So I will not be stealing Sadie's thunder and getting too much into detail, but what we have been doing to strengthen the institutional capacity of the BNSI is we have been conducting recently quality management system training. We will be working in this project in the development of a quality manual for the BNSI Soils and Materials Lab. We will also be doing training in force and compression testing. We are expecting the receipt of updated software, and BNSI is using all of this institutional capacity gearing towards the accreditation of the lab to ISO IEC 17025, which is the standard for the general requirements of the competence of testing and calibration laboratories. Now, Mr. Rhynd in his presentation would have spoken extensively about the benefits that are conferred on a laboratory when you can show accreditation to such an ISO standard. So that is what we are working towards in the Soils and Materials Lab at BNSI. May I have the next slide, please? Also, we are setting our sights on new equipment for the lab. The project that we are involved in with CDB will allow us to, we have already ordered a new compression testing machine, a load cell, high precision balance, and a precision thermometer. This equipment is expected to expand the range of tests that can be done by the lab, and also to increase the capacity of the lab in conducting soils and materials testing. Next slide, please. The BNSI has also identified additional equipment outside of the CDB project that we are in the process of procuring. And this equipment includes a soil compaction machine, bench balances, manometers, a temperature bath, a melting pot, sieves, bench ovens, buoyancy balance, and pycnometer. Now, all of this equipment will drastically increase the capability of the lab and the range of the lab tests, especially when we speak of tests such as density testing and hardened concrete cubes, for hardened concrete cubes and cylinders, the Atterberg tests, and these are all the range of services offered in the BNSI Soils and Materials Lab. And this is where, as Mr. Rhynd had mentioned earlier, the expertise of Mr. Keith Bess and Mr. Stephen Harris, this is where they really do shine in the conducting these tests for the construction industry here in Barbados. Next slide, please. So we all know that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I think that in order for us to really appreciate what we have accomplished at the BNSI, we really need to show you what we've done. It's all well and good for me to sit down and list some equipment and tell you about the project, but I think you get a real appreciation when you see what we have accomplished. So I've put in here the before photo, so you have your comparison when you see what we've been doing. This is the BNSI Soils and Materials Lab located in Culloden Road, and the project, phase 1 of the project, of the lab modernization project, is focusing on the soils and materials lab. So part of the project would have been the repair of the building that houses the BNSI Soils and Materials Lab. Next slide, please, Latoya. Again, this would have been the old lab. Next slide, please, Latoya. So the scope of the work for the project for phase 1, the lab repairs would have been focusing on repairs to the roof. It's a very old building and we had some significant leaks, replacement of the windows, restoration of the cupboards, installation of new countertops and replacement of sinks, some other various treatments. Next slide, please, Latoya. And the scope of work would have continued with some repairs to the outside of the building. Now, the consultant who would have conducted the work, the repairs and the lab retrofit, this work was done by Mr. Dave Lowe of Ecrisna Solutions and his team. And I think that the beauty of this project will become very clear for you. Next slide, please, Latoya. Fantastic. Fantastic, wonderful. Thank you so much for that wonderful video. I think, colleagues and friends, you can really now see the transformation that has taken place at the BNSI laboratory over the past few months that we have been working on this project. Now, I told you that Sadie is going to get into a little bit more of detail. So I don't want to say too much, but as I said to you, we have our equipment on its way, and you can clearly see that we now have a beautiful, updated, retrofitted, modernized lab space that is ready to receive that equipment. We are ready to move forward and to serve the needs of Barbados in our newly retrofitted BNSI Soils and Materials Laboratory. Thank you so very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Seeley. Yes, I am impressed indeed of the transformation of the lab, and I imagine our clients who regularly use our laboratory facilities are eager as well to see that transformation once they're able to return to the finished project. Thank you very much for that visual appeal. Okay, next we want to invite Ms. Sadie-Ann Sisnett, who is the project officer of the Caribbean Development Bank Regional Quality Infrastructure Program. She resides with the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, to give a few remarks about that program. Ms. Sisnett, please.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Protocols having already been observed, I will get right into my presentation. As with Lynn as well, I have a short presentation for you. And believe me, it is short, but combined with Lynn's presentation, I think it will cover what our project is about. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Lovely. All right.
The PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint. All right. So let me start. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I was introduced, my name is Sadie-Ann Sisnett. I'm the project officer for this project that involves BNSI. And as I said, my presentation is quite short. We'll go through the project summary, the project deliverables overall, and then the specific project progress of the BNSI, which we would have, part of which we would have just seen from Lynn's video. So the title of this project is Strengthening of the Regional Quality Infrastructure Program in Barbados, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. And I need not get into what QI or the RQI is, as Mr. Omar would have gone through that very well with us earlier. And we are financing this project in these 3 countries through a CDB grant. And the objective is to develop and improve quality infrastructure within the region. Our expected outputs would be development of the national quality policy using the regional quality policy for St. Kitts and Nevis, with associated implementation roadmaps to strengthen the policy, regulatory framework to support national quality infrastructure development. Now, we are very nearly finished that project with our consultant, MISO partner in St. Kitts and Nevis. And our other expected output is technical assistance to 3 metrology calibration laboratories toward the pre-assessment stage, meeting the requirements of the ISO IEC 17025 quality management system. That technical assistance is provided by our mass metrology expert, Mrs. Annette Macbadal, as well as ably assisted by our technical officer metrology from PROSCU, Mr. Nicol Best. We have a timeline of about 24 months, 2 years. The project would have started in December of 2020. The grant agreement was signed, and we were looking to go to December 2022 when everything should be completed in these 3 countries. We are currently on time and on budget for this project. So we're going really well with these 3 calibration laboratories. We have a total budget for all 3 countries of just over $870,000 US, and this includes everything, the project management and coordination, development of the NQP, the hiring of that consultant meso partner, as well as our mass metrology expert, the technical assistance to the 3 mass calibration labs, and the procurement and purchase of equipment for these 3 labs as well. So for our project, our overall project outcome, therefore, would be an enhanced national and regional quality infrastructure across CARICOM member states, and in this case, specifically, excuse me, Barbados, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. And these 3 countries will be joining the others in the region that already have their national quality policies and their quality infrastructure up and running. All right, so our overall aim with our project deliverables is to achieve international recognition of the metrology services of the 3 beneficiary labs by the following methodology. So we're going to establish the necessary physical infrastructure, and this would be what we would have just seen in the video, the actual buildings, the labs, the physical infrastructure that meets those requirements for international recognition, have all the standards and equipment functional. So through equipment procurement, as I would have just said, for all of these labs that allow them to do what they do in metrology, in mass metrology, force metrology. Capacity building, our metrology staff has been going through training to have the necessary technical and managerial competencies. And we're also developing a quality management system. Okay, we want to have that developed and implemented in all 3 of these labs as well. So those are our project deliverables. So for BNSI specifically, the physical infrastructure has been renovated, and we'd have seen that the lab work is completed and the lab is ready to accept the new equipment when it comes. That equipment is actually going to be shipped around the middle of November, in just a few days. And we hopefully we can see it arriving at the Bridgetown port around the beginning of December. So we're getting very close to having that lab filled with new equipment. All right, so for the equipment, we had a firm that was contracted to supply the force metrology equipment for Barbados. As I said, the shipment is expected to arrive in country at the beginning of December this year, so next month. And the capacity building, our mass metrology expert, Mrs. Matt Badal, and our technical officer metrology, Mr. Nicol Best, is assisting the BNSI in the training of its staff. We've got training in quality management systems and in force metrology training. So with the delivery of the equipment, we will have yet another set of training on the equipment itself, right? And because Lynn had a very nice video, there is no reason for me to have any photos. So that would be the overview, brief overview of the Caribbean Development Project, Caribbean Development Bank Project, specifically for BNSI. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sisnett, and we thank you for giving an overview of the Regional Quality Infrastructure Project, which involves both, well, all 3 member states, Barbados, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. And it gives context to the work of how BNSI is using that facility to improve its laboratory infrastructure. Thank you very much. Next, we will want to call on Mr. Nicol Best, who is the Technical Officer, Metrology, at the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality. He will speak about quality infrastructure and metrology. But before he does that, I just want to give a short anecdote of what happened yesterday. I was purchasing sweet potatoes, and we want to speak about metrology, which is the science of measurement, and not meteorology, which is the science of weather. And the vendor I purchased my sweet potatoes, I noticed she had a digital scale. And before she was about to weigh those sweet potatoes, I noticed that the scale was not quite tiered or calibrated. It was saying 0.036 pounds before she even used the scale. And you know, this is what we're talking about. We're taking the opportunity to speak to persons in the marketplace about either training so that they understand how to use measurements or measurements properly, or it may be a fact that the scale needed calibrated. So just a short anecdote. So I'm going to invite Mr. Nicol Best to speak about metrology at this time. Mr. Best, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Scott. All protocols observed, right? Today, I am going to share a short presentation on quality infrastructure, and metrology. Can you all see my presentation?
Yes, Nicol.
Okay, thank you. So basically, I'm just going to present on a few things. Quality, basically the definition, the benefits, as well as a little bit again on quality infrastructure, even though we would have heard quite a bit by the CEO. I would also share with you all metrology, a definition, and also the importance of metrology, as well as the metrology development and the technical assistance that is being provided and the support towards the development of the metrology division or the metrology section of the BNSI. So in terms of quality, right, quality is basically the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfills requirements. This comes directly from ISO 9001. And if we look into dissecting this definition a bit, we would focus probably on inherent characteristics and requirements. So basically inherent characteristics are the aspects of the product or service that ensures satisfaction. If we look at requirements, then we would go dig a little deeper into customer expectations of the product or service based on needs and wants. So simply put, quality is ensuring products and services meet customer requirements, being fit for purpose and intended use. So basically, just to reiterate, the quality infrastructure system is basically a combination of activities, people, institutions, initiatives, and organizations. There are many benefits or advantages of having a QI, quality infrastructure. In terms of government, we would see things like increased competitiveness, resource efficiency, food safety optimization, improvement in health, in public health and safety as well, especially at a time like this, right? Some more advantages of QI, we could see those in terms of manufacturers and suppliers, right? Manufacturers and suppliers are able to utilize international standards for product and service development, right? Business procedures and processes as well can be built using some of these standards that we would have heard about previously. You know, the ISO 9001, ISO IEC 17025, ISO 14001, and also ISO 15189, just to name a few. So basically, QMS or quality management systems can be developed according to best practices and requirements, right? And this also ensures that continuous improvement in operations are sought through the process approach, which is what 9001 and many of these ISO standards that speak to quality speak about the process approach towards development and continuous improvement. So when we look at customers, there's increased customer satisfaction and confidence in products and services. And also products and services would meet expectations and also exceed these expectations in some of these instances. So moving along a little further, just a little visual representation of quality infrastructure. This is taken from the UNIDO Quality Infrastructure Building Trust for Trade document, right? So basically we would see governance here, and basically at the governance level, we look at regulatory framework, the quality policy, and this basically extends throughout directly to the consumer level. So when we look at quality infrastructure institutions, we speak about metrology, standardization, and accreditation. When we go a little further and we look at quality infrastructure services, we look at quality promotion, conformity assessment. There we would have activities such as certification, inspection, and testing. And we also see calibration as well as verification. At the enterprise level, we see enterprise upgrading as well as value chain development. And last but not least, at the consumers level, we see awareness raising as well as capacity building. You know, this is a very good visual representation of QI that you all can use in your as reference. So basically, I would just focus a bit on the quality infrastructure institutions, which are standardization, metrology, and accreditation. So basically, as stated before, as stated previously, standardization seeks to develop standards and guidelines for operations, products, and services. Metrology, on the other hand, is the development of accurate measurement systems in accordance with the established standards. So basically, they go hand in hand. Without the standards, you can't really do much metrology work because you need some benchmark or some document to follow, right? And there's also accreditation, which is the formal recognition of competence in terms of quality management systems, products, people, inspection, and calibration testing bodies. So we all see how, in terms of quality infrastructure, these three go hand in hand. So in terms of metrology, as said before, and I'm just reiterating, is the science of measurement and its application. Metrology is extremely important, as we all know, right? Because metrology promotes innovation, it improves and supports public health and safety, it assures the quality of products and services, and it promotes fair trade, right? Metrology is basically divided into three subfields: scientific, industrial, and legal. At the BNSI, there is the scientific and industrial metrology being performed or done. These services are there, right? Basically, the development of measurement standards, the artifacts, and the maintenance of these standards. At the industrial level, we look at, you know, equipment and product functionality, right? Calibration and also testing activities, as well as quality management is a part of these two. It's a big part of all these subfields, right? There's also, last but not least, the legal aspect of metrology. This deals with the equipment and products intended for use in trade and economic transactions, right? The verification of that equipment, of those types of equipment, and also regulatory and advisory activities. In terms of the, right, so I'll move on to technical assistance. So under the CDB project, some of the technical assistance that would be provided, the support that would be provided to the BNSI would be the laboratory quality management system development, which I have been working alongside the technical officer, Ms. Renate, in developing the quality manual, as well as the procedures and reviewing their forms and ensuring that they have the relevant documentation to ensure that the quality management system is rigid and could stand up to scrutiny. So in terms of training and development, which would have been mentioned before, we would have had training in quality, and we also have upcoming training sessions in calibration, as well as testing, calibration of force instruments, force equipment, as well as testing, compression testing. In terms of equipment procurement, my colleague Sadie-Ann would have spoken about it, as well as Ms. Seeley, right? In terms of the new equipment that the BNSI lab is getting, we'd have gone through an intensive process where we would have looked at suppliers, you know, looked at the technical specifications of the equipment to ensure that the BNSI would get the equipment that is necessary to perform these testing activities that they would now like to promote, as well as provide to customers. In terms of guidance towards accreditation, well, one of the objectives or one of the deliverables would be to actually guide them or get them towards that accreditation in ISO ISC 17025, right? This is a big part of of testing or assuring the competence of the lab to do the work that they do, right, in terms of testing as well as calibration. And last but not least, this is just outside of the project though, but the Barbados Metrology Act, right? This is a lot of the technical support would have gone into developing or helping to streamline this Metrology Act alongside the BNSI as well as the DCCA, the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. So in a nutshell, that is my presentation. I would also like to commend the BNSI staff for their commitment to develop metrology throughout the years. I'm very delighted to be a part of this monumental development. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you, everyone, for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bess, for your aspects on metrology. We thank you very much for your presentation. At this time, we would like to move on to Mr. Keith Bess, and he was mentioned earlier in remarks given. Mr. Bess is our senior technician in the Soils and Materials Laboratory at the BNSI, and he will give you some brief insights into the Soils and Materials Laboratory. So, Mr. Bess, if you can deliver your remarks at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabian. All the protocols established. I'd like to thank everyone present. And I must say that this project was a long time in coming. Over the years, we've been looking forward to seeing the modernization of the BNSI, but in general, the Soils and Materials Lab. Because the Soils and Materials Lab had a very humble beginning. I'd just like to show you a picture of this presentation. Can you see this picture, the screen?
Yes, we can.
Right, okay. Right, this is where the Soils and Materials Lab had its humble beginnings. This is the old airport, the civil airport at the, well, just west of the present terminal at the Granby Adams International Airport. I think most of that building has been torn down. The tower is not there, I don't think, any longer. But this lab was established at that time, which would be in the mid-70s, 1970s, to provide a quality testing service for the proposed new terminal project at the airport. Because the government saw the need to, because of the expanding tourism industry and the arrival of airlift, increasing airlift, they decided that an airport was needed, a new airport. And so the new terminal was built, as well as the extension of the runway. Now, this lab was established to provide a quality service in terms of the testing of the materials and the other concrete and other stuff that was used on the project. But even at that time, there was still a demand by the industry, the construction industry, for testing. And therefore, because that was the only lab of its kind in the island, they utilized its services to do quality checks on their materials. But in the aftermath, or when the airport was completed in 1979, they were still utilizing the services of the laboratory. As when I joined the lab at the airport in 1979, but there was a little bit of a challenge for them because the airport was practically outside of the beaten path, as it were. And most of the construction firms are centrally located. So they wanted a central location for the laboratory, which would reduce the cost of transportation time and all the other factors that would be down to efficient operation. So they embarked on a plan to have the BNSI acquire the lab and move it centrally, which they did and was completed in 1983. Well, I came along for the ride, if you want to call it that. But yes, there were two personnel, members of staff at that time, but I was the only one who came along with the excuse me, the equipment And from that time until now, the BNSI has been providing a fairly decent level of service to the construction industry. But over the years, there was a need, a very pressing need to improve the infrastructure of the Soils and Materials Lab, because as Lynn showed so beautifully in that video, before and after. And I must say that at some points in time, some of the clients would say, like, after some time had elapsed, they said, but Mr. Best, I can't see the difference between the picture I would have seen 10 years ago and now. So it was like they were playing hocus pocus with us. But it's so good to see that we are going to be acquiring new equipment. We recently had extensive training in accreditation in terms of the quality culture that will be implemented soon. And we are truly working forward in the Glass Soils and Materials Lab to see how we are going to have a greater impact with the construction industry in providing them with quality services going forward. Now, there's one area that we would like to see and improve in terms of the services that we deliver to them, and that's in the area of sampling. This is an area that I've had some exposure in on a stint of training that I attended in 2011 in Jamaica. And this is an area of some concern for us because we have had over the past, I wouldn't call it a laid back attitude, but there could be room for improvement in terms of the quality of samples delivered to us for testing, as well as how they're delivered and transported to us. Now, this is what you're seeing on the screen is a sample of concrete. And believe you me, we have received samples that haven't quite measured up to the standards specified in the required standards that we use for testing. ASTM standards, most of what we use, we've used some of the local standards, as well as we have also used some of the British standards in the past in terms of testing of materials, soils and materials. But samples such as this one, going forward, we want to create a culture of quality. So we want all of our stakeholders to come on board. We want to reach out in terms of even training personnel in the proper use and handling of samples, as well as the correct procedures involved in delivering, etc., standards to the lab. If you look at our next slide, now this is, you wouldn't believe that sometimes in the past we've had samples delivered to us in containers such as these, and then there's always the risk of contamination. So going forward, we would like to establish protocols based on the standards that we are going to be using in the proper use of equipment, containers, all the necessary things that will be required to deliver samples of very high quality to us, so that when we do our checks and balances, we can actually be, guaranteed that we are actually delivering to you results that are credible. And then too, because of what was mentioned previously, we are working towards the goal of accreditation. So you're delivering to us quality standards, quality samples would actually go a long way towards achieving that. So that is one area that we would like to see improve. And we would like, possibly in the future, and I suppose this it can be discussed with the director as well as Lynn, how we can go about setting up programs to offer training in terms of handling and also sampling of various materials. I would just briefly like to just touch on the areas that where I believe we could be of assistance in terms of just to mention some of the areas that I have exposure, and I believe I'll be able to have an impact. That is before I retire, because this project was so long in coming that I never thought I would actually see it come to fruition. I would always tell my colleagues I would retire probably and read about it in the newspapers. But here I am seeing it being fulfilled or being fulfilling, you know, right here now, which is a very good thing. So just mention before I close some of the areas where I think we'll be able to assist in terms of the calibration, because we are going to be, as mentioned before, we will receive, our staff will receive training in the use of the equipment that will be delivered soon. And which will be very welcome, because I've had training in England dealing with calibration and maintenance of the compression testers. But now, even with the training that will be utilized by the personnel who would be coming in from the various manufacturers, we know that we will be given a very comprehensive coverage of what is necessary to be implemented in the use of this new equipment. And then some of the other areas that probably we may be able to help in is in the sampling of the various materials, because I've had some experience at the Bureau of Standards in Jamaica, and I have been involved in their sampling program, which was very extensive, sampling of the materials that are used in the building and construction industry over there, as well as in the block making industry, which was very, very, very well organized. And that is something that I would probably like to see done here, but not too sure if it will be implemented in the near future, right? But I've been here at the BNSI for 38 years. I've had a lot of experience, and I would like, you know, in going forward, that I can, you know, utilize my expertise for the remaining time that I'll be here, and to help to improve the quality of work done in the industry. Now, a lot of has been said and presented, so I don't think there's much more that I want to add. So that's about it. So thank you very much for your attention, and I turn back over to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Keith, for your insights. This will bring us to an end of part 2, which is promoting a quality culture. I just made a few notes from your remarks as well as Mr. Bess. A few things I'd like to mention that came up,
Thanks.
which is the importance of testing as a pillar of quality infrastructure during this COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, testing goes on every day for COVID positive patients, and I suppose only because of the pandemic do we realize the importance of having that capacity within a country to have testing facilities. In addition to that, similarly, also the same with metrology, which is to be able to measure. Every day we go into buildings, and with the new safe zone policy being implemented, you are being temperature checked with equipment which measures your body temperature. So you understand that these things are important for a country to progress and to be able to carry out necessary daily functions in its everyday economy and in the issues of commerce. So thank you very much for that, Mr. Bess, and both Mr. Bess, Mr. Nicol and Mr. Keith Bess. So we will go on to our final part 3, which is now about the BNSI and You. But one final thing before I mention that was, you mentioned, Keith, about the airport, and I'm glad you brought that up. It reminded me of some work the BNSI had done recently with the support to the repaving of the airport runway a few months ago. That, again, is being done to a standard by BICO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization. And we provided guidance through the provision of ESTM standards for that particular project, where the contractor, we pointed out the standard to which that repavement needed to be done. So we provided them some guidance in addition to some of the testing that they would have done elsewhere. So you can see, even in the area of international commerce through air cargo and for passenger or personal safety, when those planes are landing, the importance of having standards, the importance of having testing facilities so that your economy can function in the area of air transport as well. So we're happy to do that. Okay, so part 3, we're going on to BNSI and You. This section, we'll hear more about other aspects of the work of BNSI, not just on the laboratory infrastructure development, but other members and other clients we have and the work we do with them. And first, we would like to invite the CEO of Export Barbados, the IBC, Mr. Mark Hill, to deliver a few remarks in this regard. So if Mr. Hill is ready, he can deliver his remarks. Mr. Hill, please. I'm not seeing or hearing Mr. Hill. I'm not sure if he dropped out or have a technical issue, but we can move on to our next.
He's sorry to interrupt, Fabian. He said that he is joining now.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I imagine we can wait a few moments for Mr. Hill to deliver his brief remarks. Thank you very much, Mr. Rhynd. And in the interim, while he's being able to reconnect, I also want to take note of the last item Mr. Keith Best mentioned, which is about the sampling and delivering of samples to the laboratory complex. There is the possibility for BNSI to provide training on this aspect of samples being provided. So if any of our clients and customers are interested in taking advantage of that, please, you can always give us a call, and we are able to work with you to help improve the quality of the samples being delivered to the lab. So thank you very much for that. So I now invite Mr. Hill, who is with us, to give his remarks. Mr. Hill, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Hill, CEO of Export Barbados BADC. It's a real pleasure to be here, to be part of this process. One of the things that we want to underscore is the pivot that the corporation is currently going through. As most people will know, the corporation, BADC, has primarily been known for its focus on the small business sector, which is very important, which is very critical. But one of the things that we want to underscore is that over the last 10 years, our export businesses have been declining significantly. So we moved from having 248 export businesses, and now we're down at this current point in time, we are down to 105 export businesses. And based on that trajectory, we're looking at Barbados having as low as 30 export businesses shortly by 2030. And out of that 105, let me bring it home even a little bit more. We only have actually 40 active exporters, which I believe is consistent with the number of persons that are also registered with BNSI. So when we look at the reality of the state of play, how many players are involved in Barbados in standards and the international standards and the quality infrastructure to facilitate exports, we only have about 40 persons. And that's the same thing that we have as a corporation as well. And of that 40, we have about 5 that are what we call tier 1, who earn over $10 million. Then we have about another 6 that are tier 2, who earn over $5 million US. And then we have about 11 that are tier 3 that are earning over $1 million US. And then around 20 persons that are earning over 500,000 US dollars, and 111 who are earning less than that. And on that 111, they're just people who just send out samples. So I said all that to say that the relationship between standards and exports is very, very critical. And we know that the quality infrastructure is a key area that we need to invest in. So we just set up in our restructuring the whole organization. We set up 4 new pillars, and we set up actually a quality infrastructure team at the corporation that will liaison with BNSI on a daily basis, and we're in the process of getting ready to now sign an MOU with BNSI. What that allows us to do is to drive forward a lot of our exports that are rooted in what we call biotrade or bioeconomy. 75% of Barbados's exports are basically biotrade. And to that extent, they either have some form of biological or agricultural origin. And the reality is that those products, whether it be food, such as rum or fats, oils, margarine, stuff like that, the food standards have to be very high. We have the HACCP issues to deal with. We have the ISO 9000, ISO 14000 issues to deal with when it comes to sustainability and stuff like that, as we seek to get into these international markets. So we need to really have a very strong standard focus to deal with what we call the non-tariff barriers, because standards are also used as a non-tariff barrier to bar entry for our products getting into other international markets. So in a nutshell, I say that Export Barbados and BNSI, we are tight at the hip. We can't deliver, we can't move the export numbers without BNSI support, and we look forward to even working closer together going forward. We're now accelerating the build up of what we call our new international food science labs, food science center at Newton. That is forecast to be finished constructed. So the same way we just have the new labs for soil and aggregates and stuff like that, we will also, we're now spending around 5.4 million on food science labs here, so that we can start to do all the necessary testing to make sure that our labs are accredited on the food front, that our biotrade is not undermined. And this we're looking forward to for the next through months, delivering and working closely with BNSI to deliver that as well. So Export Barbados, we want to commend the team again for the initiative today, and we just look forward to working as a team and delivering on for the country the kind of standards that really put Barbados on the map as an international destination and an international product and service provider in the global market. So thanks for that, Fabian, and thanks Hadyn and Rhynd for giving me the opportunity to just give that quick overview of where we're going as far as the export agenda is concerned. Thanks.
Yes, thank you too, Mr. Hill. Thank you for that very, very comprehensive and succinct situation regarding our exporters. BNSI is pleased to work with Export Barbados in building out the capacity of our industries and productive sector to be able to export. And we are looking forward to working with you in your food science center, as well in other areas where we can build out, even in the areas of renewable energy and energy sector, as we help them as well to provide products and services. So thank you very much. We look forward to working together on that, and we look forward to good things happening. Next, I want to call on our next speaker, who will speak about BNSI and You, We want to call on our representative from Berger Paints, Barbados Limited. BNSI has worked with Berger Paints in providing them with a solution for their business needs. And I will kindly ask the Berger representative if they can give a few words. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is indeed a pleasure to be here. My name is Renate Cobham. I'm the Senior Brand Officer, and I have with me Akel Bailey. He is the Brand Officer for, actually the Business Development Officer for our automotive line. And it is something interesting that we've been discussing here at our little board here in Berger. All of the information that you've shared thus far is so aligned to the overall, our parent company, meaning ANSA, and aligned with the Berger objectives that we have here. We look for sustainable business practices. We continue to look in terms of the products that we put out there for persons to consume and use. So this is timely for us to make this step in the direction that you are speaking. This is a progressive discussion that we're having right here. And what Mr. Hill just shared in terms of the export, Berger helps contribute to that, because as a 9001 and 14001 ISO certified organization, we understand what it is to have products that are sustainable, that are not detrimental to the environments that they're in, and we do play our part. So it is on this premise that when we embarked on expanding our protective coatings footprint into the automotive industry, that we sought to find something that would be in keeping with the 9000 and more so specifically the 14001 certification. We carry the PPG aqua-based brand, while Nexa aqua-based plus brand, which is a waterborne automotive paint. And I can speak to the nice things that it might do and make it sound great, but to talk a little bit more about what that actually means, because I'm sure some of you might be thinking, she just said water-based paint to automotive. Yes, that is a progressive step that Berger has been working towards, and not, as I said, not just Berger, but the Anson McKell group of companies of which we are affiliated with. We are looking to move towards protecting the environment for generations to come. We work with the premise of sustainable business practices. We know that climate change is real. So anything that we do and any product that we put out there, it has to be in keeping with the QMS and the EMS certification that we have. And it is, we didn't take it lightly when we decided to bring on the automotive paint and to introduce not just to the technicians on island, but also to take that step a little bit further when we've signed the MOU with SJPI, that we are serious and we are committed to making this the way forward in the automotive and the protective coatings industry for vehicles, not just in Barbados, because you have to start home first and then extend further out. So to speak just briefly on what that is, because I keep referencing the aqua-based class, is Akel Bailey.
Morning, one and all. So basically, the first question that pops into mind is, what is aqua-based? And aqua-based simply replaces the solvent component of automotive paint with that of water and uses the process of evaporation basically to set that base coat. So we're removing all chemical foundations that will be found in solvent paint and replacing it with basically water. Now, so obviously the skeptical part of it is, but how does this work? How does water and, as Renate was saying, car paint go hand in hand? Well, you see, with our leading technologies now that aqua-based and Nexa with PPG have been able to incorporate, they found a way to get it done, and have been doing it continuously now for a number of years. This product has been used and is being used currently in Germany, all of Europe, and also it's coming to here in Barbados through some motors with all of the Kias, Mazdas, Mercedes, from some motors, even Suzuki Swiss are coming down now with the aqua-based coatings. Now this is quite fundamental as in most garages here currently use 2K products or solvent-based paint. And we are on are going through the process now of converting our local garages, converting our local dealerships to, introduce the Aqua-Base Plus and the benefits that are associated with it. So why would a local garage want to convert to Aqua-Base Plus? Well, firstly, right off the bat, environmentally friendly, first for the users and also the environment. Now, we know the typical solvent-based paint have a lot of harmful aspects of it in terms of health, in terms of waste disposal, and of course, usage. A lot of the dealerships, a lot of the local garages are surrounded by communities, children, as Renate was saying. One of our main focuses was getting in the SJPI, saying that these youngsters, these young technicians are coming pupils of Barbados are the future of, the future of Barbados, essentially. And we want to equip them with the leading technology and the leading skills to be able to equip them when they go into the market, to be able to say, well, hey, I know I use Aqua-Base. Why are you still using 2K products? That's almost yesteryear. That's a thing of the past. So going forward, equipping these students with the necessary asset and skill sets to use Aqua-Base going out into the market, it would just come natural to them. Aqua-Base offers exceptional product coverage with only a third of material usage. Now, let me repeat that right off the bat. Only a third of material usage in comparison with solvent-based paint. Now, for me, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and just to interject there, the fact of the matter is it means the 2K, you use a lot more.
Correct.
And this product allows the technicians to use a lot less and still get the same finish that you would get with the 2K, as well as the reduce harm to yourself, reduce harm to the environment.
Correct.
So again, as I said initially, and as Akel expounded there a little bit, we here at Berger are making environmentally conscious decisions about the things that we put out there for consumption in the market, and not just here in Barbados, but across the region. We are leaders in what we do, and we are continuing on that grain. So we don't take this very lightly. We are very serious, and we want to continue to play our part in reducing the footprint and the damage that anything is being done to the environment.
Correct. And funny to say that, Renate, is because with the Aqua-Base paint, it significantly reduces our VOC rating. And by that, I know we all know what VOC stands for, but obviously, for those who don't know, that's the volatile organic, compounds. And those are the harmful compounds that really create a lot of wear and tear, not only on our personal health, but also on the environment as well. Now, with Barbados being one of the leading islands in the Caribbean, really pushing the Going Green initiative, I think it's really important for us to introduce this to the public. And before long, I know that the whole Going Green initiative will come, and a legislation might soon come as well, where it will be stipulated that certain solvent-based products will have to be depleted from use, just as with plastic.
So that's why it resonated very well, clearly there when Mr. Hill spoke about using the tariffs. We are very familiar with that in terms of getting your products into, especially like the OECS and further down the island chain. So this is something that we are paying close attention to, and we would welcome any questions here or afterwards with regards to learning more about our product solutions here and what we carry. And since being a member of the BNSI, because at first we didn't know about it, but now that we do, we found it has been very beneficial to the brand and to both parties. So again, thank you very much for allowing us to speak here this morning. We find it very timely. And of course, as I said, any other information that you require with regards to the Aqua-Base Plus and what it can do. And furthermore, what other interesting things, because we do have some interesting things coming up in 2022, because we're continuing our movement towards sustainable product and business practices with Berger. So thank you all for allowing us to speak. And let me apologize because we're in a space, that's why we kept on our masks.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Berger Partners. Berger Barbados Limited is a member of the BNSI, as mentioned, and I can assure you that the products coming from them are quality-based. They do actively participate in the development of regional paint standards, which is currently ongoing, and we note the innovative products that you're looking to put on the market, which are environmentally friendly. Thank you very much for your vote of confidence, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Next, we will have another organization who will speak about BNSI and You, and therefore we now wish to call on BICO. As you know, BICO is the manufacturing enterprise that produces ice cream, which we so dearly love. So I would like the BICO representative to give a few words at this time. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. My name is Hadyn, BICO representative, the commercial director for business development and revenue. I would like to recognize all protocols, and Fabian, thank you very much for the introduction. BICO, yes, our main ice cream, as everybody so love, but we also have Harbor Cold Storage, which is a million cubic feet of storage facility, where we encourage the locals, and also we receive containers from abroad with chilled and frozen goods, which are distributed to the supermarkets and also different entities. We also do transshipments. Speaking on the point, we have had a lot of interaction with the group, BNSI, in various areas. The Safe Business Verification Program was the last program that we worked on. I worked on it with Jonathan and Lynn, which they were very supportive and so forth. So we here at BICO really, we really work closely with all the organizations, because it is in the best interest of Barbados to move forward and be supportive and develop. I also would like to express my great appreciation with the directional focus that we're looking at for the exporting, because BICO made the decision in 2019 to start producing ice cream back in Barbados. And hearing from the patrons and persons in Barbados, at first it was basically a pride thing that we brought it back. But there's a lot of contributing factors in relating to the pandemic. If we had to import the ice cream, the timeline of shipping the ice cream from where we was having it produced, which was Suriname, we had to look at stock. We also was having 1 or 2 issues with quality issues, which mean that persons would have to go and visit the plant and identify the areas. So by having it here in Barbados, not only that, we could look at the areas that we spoke about sugar contents, and the export is a very, very important area in which BICO has started to look at, because we see all the other ice creams coming from all over the world and here in Barbados, and we don't actually, we're now starting regionally to look at Dominica, Guyana, and some of the other Caribbean islands that export. So for us, that will bring in the revenue that's needed. And to put point on the point, BICO is also HACCP certified, Harbor Cold Storage, as I mentioned earlier. And if you could put the message out there, we persons can bring their produce here to us. We facilitate, we also help to improve best practice, like the guidance that the BNSI give us and the other regulatory agents and so forth. And what we do is we try to develop local producers and different entities that are willing to either go into the business or already have a business, but don't have the know-how or the funds to develop. What we do here is we say, look, this is how we're going to support you, or we point them in the direction of organizations that might be able to give them funding, and we support them because we have to support our brothers, and we have to support in the development of the export and also of the economy. And for me, I believe that BICO and all of us here doing the export and also the development of the laboratories is very, very vital and important to move us forward in the right direction, where we can start back producing at home and developing more export facilities. So the comment that Mark made pertaining to the tier factor, for me, that is something that I didn't actually know, but that is useful information. So I spoke about a few areas, but the one area that I just want to go back to, which is my last area, is the business verification program, which we worked along. And as I explained and I said to Fabian and Jonathan that they can use BICO as a example where they could coordinate with us to bring persons to see what we have done. So we've put stickers in place, we've put sanitizers, we've put all of these processes have started, yes, a little before COVID, but we took other additional steps. We've also acquired lateral flow tests. We have a doctor that comes and does tests here for us, where the staff are all on board. We haven't had any pushback on it. So they understand the importance of working in a safe environment. We also, we set up programs with the Labor Department to come in to do other training. So for me, it's just to tell just to say to you guys, Fabian and team, thank you very much for your support. We are here to share information. Whatever knowledge we acquire, or whatever knowledge you acquire, you've always been very open to sharing it. And we, on the other hand, are also here and willing to share our information. So thank you very much from the BICO Limited Group and Harbor Cold Storage.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aline, for your confidence. Yes, we do note that BICO does have other lines of businesses, the cold storage business. And one thing we must say is that you are a leader in the renewable energy space. I suppose even before it became what we call fashionable, you guys were putting renewable energy systems, solar panels on your roofs to help defray the carbon emissions that you were using directly from the grid to power
20%.
those chiller systems. Yes, you want to say something about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. To add to that, I forgot that part. We were kind of like the trailblazers for the renewable energy. We changed out our panels recently. We upgraded them. We had them clean. We tried to put 20% on it. We also for the factory, for cooling the factory, we actually use absorption system, which we use natural gas. So which is a lower cost than using the, which reduce our electricity bill. So we also looking at, we actually had a group session where we was looking at another method of reducing our electrical costs. So what we have is programs where the technical manager and the groups get together and we look at how we could reduce our costs with electrical costs and improve our efficiency. So yes, to that point, and also we have electric cars. So the next step we're thinking about using hybrid to again, so we try to move forward in the most economical and efficient way.
Thank you for that final word. So yes, we note that BICO is a trailblazer. I just want to point out, next we will be having Ports Unicomer Barbados Limited to speak about BNSI and You and the work we are doing with them. But first, if you would note on the screen, I'm sharing with you our Safe Business logo or sticker, where all three of these businesses, Berger Paints Barbados Limited, BICO Limited, and Ports Unicomer Barbados Limited, have put systems in place, and we have verified that to an international standard, ISO 17029. So the BNSI Safe Business Verification Program is based on international standard, as I mentioned, ISO 17029. And all three of these companies are trailblazers because they have put the systems in place going above and beyond what is recommended by the Ministry of Health and Wellness to prevent the spread and infection of COVID-19. So with that, I'd like to invite the representative from Ports Unicomer Barbados Limited to give some remarks.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Unicomer, it's a pleasure being here today to address you. Unicomer trades across the region, throughout the Caribbean region, and also throughout Latin America. And we as a large retail organization pride ourselves at maintaining high standards, not only retail standards, but safety, health and safety standards. And definitely with the impact of COVID-19 in 2020, we definitely moved quickly to put in place across our regions, regional Unicomer policies for the management of protocols, safety protocols, etc., to keep our customers and our staff safe at all times as they trade with us. In Barbados, we have operations, stores up and down the country from north to south, east to west. So we have the Quartz brand, we have the Radio Shack brand, we have the Optical brand. We have more recently cash loan operation and microfinance operations. So it's very important to us to keep our staff and our customers safe at all times. And it's with that in mind that as soon as we learn of the Safe Business Verification Program of BNSI, that we contacted them to become a part of it because it aligned with our own strategies for health and safety. And I must say that it was a pleasure working along with the whole team, Mr. Scott, Mr. Jonathan Platt, and their teams at BNSI. We would have initially shared with them all of our documentation, all of our policies, practices. Then they would have come in and performed audits to ensure that not only the documentation was correct, but also that we practiced what we preached and that what we were doing on a day-to-day basis was evident. And of course, they gave the very professional feedback that would allow us to make any amendments and adjustments in what we did on a daily basis. So we cherish that relationship, and being a member of BNSI and being, I think, the first private sector business that got the certification for Safe Business Verification under this program. It's been a pleasure working with them. They are very professional, and we found them to be very, very accommodating. And we look forward to continuing that process going forward. Of course, the impact of COVID-19 has even ramped up and become even more contingent and more of an issue in recent months with the advent of the Delta variant, which means that we work even more closely with Ministry of Health, and now that, with all the contact tracing that has to be done, and to make sure that we are strengthening our protocols on a daily basis, evidencing them. We have maybe 300 staff across storefronts. Our optical business is a paramedical standard based operation with a medical basis, and that has even more stringent standards that have to be met. So we have to work very closely to ensure that our consumers, our customers that come to store, our staff, all are kept safe on a day-to-day basis. And now that the conversation is turning to, or has turned to safe zones, our optical operation as a medical facility, not just a fashion eyewear outlet, but as a medical facility, has to be part of that safe zone standard, and we are working there to implement that, and we are also working on vaccination policy for our business as we look to broaden the whole aspect of safe zone throughout our business, and also especially in the first instance our liners, cashiers, CSRs, people that interact directly with our customers. We have technicians on the roads. We have a number of people that are frontliners that we definitely are seeking to ensure to keep safe and ensure that we keep our customers safe that interact with them. So all I can say in terms of BNSI is that it's been very refreshing working with them, beneficial to us, and we look forward to continuing the work. I think we're up for recertification shortly, and we will work with them to ensure that we continue on the right path, and that we can service our customers, and especially as we enter this peak season. You have times such as Black Friday, and then leading right into Christmas, where you have, obviously it's the height of the trading year. And we also then have to also ensure that we manage very carefully number of persons in the stores, no congregations, and ensure that we maintain the protocols. Of course, what has been mentioned this morning, of course, the basics of temperature checks, sanitizations, distancing, all of these things. Frequently touch surfaces that have to be have a program of being cleaned up in between customer, etc. So we look forward to continuing working with BNSI, and I would encourage any and all entities, private sector and public sector too, but definitely to become a member of the BNSI and to become certified under this program. It's very, very beneficial to everyone, to keep everybody safe. So with that, I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and wish you all a good day. Thank you very much. Hand back over to you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Corbin, for your vote of confidence. Yes, you can tell the world you are our first safe business customer. We cherish that relationship. Indeed, we were quite impressed when we conducted our assessments to realize the amount of systems and efforts that you have in place as management to make sure that your staff is safe and that the customers who are doing business with you indeed are also safe, that they can feel confident in entering the court stores, optical stores, ready cash, and all the different lines of business you have, that they'll be safe in doing so. And in this new trading season, the busy trading season that is coming upon us, we look forward to working with you for the requalification to also give customers that confidence. There are some other business we will speak to privately about the safe zones. There is the possibility we can help you with that, as safe business may be the basis for meeting those requirements, but we will talk to you privately on that matter. So thank you very much, Mr. Corbin. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming quickly to close to our engagement. And so we want to call on our final entity, Portvale Sugar Factory, who will speak on the relationship between BNSI and Portvale. I'm not sure if it's a direct person speaking or video, but we will have the information delivered to you very shortly. Thank you.
Portvale has had a long-standing relationship with the BNSI, during which time we would have benefited from a number of its services. Annually, we work closely with Mr. Brewster from the metrology department with the calibration of our weighbridge and also our direct consumption sugar equipment. The calibration of the weighbridge is critical, as the weights for the cane, sugar and molasses must be accurate to be used in our factory mass balance calculations, and also the weights are used for trading purposes. The calibration of the direct consumption equipment is critical to us passing our HACCP food safety audits. Without HACCP, the certification, Portvale would not be able to export its direct consumption sugar regionally and internationally. So BNSI currently calibrate or check weight scales, temperature calibrators, magnet pull testers. The documents from the calibrations are offered up to the HACCP auditor annually as proof that the information or data that we get from these equipments are truthful, and this is part of our food safety verification process. BNSI has also helped us in our product development life cycle, recently with a soil amendment product that we were working on. We were able to attain the labeling standard from them, and once we would have worked with the graphic artists and we came up with a label, they were able to review the label to make sure it met the standard. So Carson Rollins was the one who assisted me and guided me through that process. We were also able to use the soil analysis lab to carry out analysis also on the soil amendment, and this information would be placed on the packaging. Another such service that the BNSI has assisted us with was that of training and development. Over the years, we've been privileged to benefit from awareness sessions as it relates to HACCP, internal auditing exposure, ISO 22000 exposure, and the most recent training that we would have done with them would have included an online training in ISO 17025, a quality management system. I would like to take this opportunity to employ all businesses, small or large, to get the facts and get started. The BNSI is a huge source of resources. They have a wealth of knowledge and a team of people who would guide you through any situation. They have the labeling standards, they are great with the calibrations, and also any standard that you're interested in, they will be able to help you. So get the facts and get started. You're in with a good team. I would like also to take the opportunity to thank all those persons from the BNSI who would have worked with Portvale over the last 10 years plus for all of your support, your exposure. We really appreciated it. Special thanks to Hadyn Rhynd, Lynn Seeley, Ronald Brewster, Carson Rollins, Keith Bess, Suzanne Yard, and the list goes on and on. But I appreciate you, and thanks for allowing me to be part of this webinar. I'm truly honored. Thank you.
And thank you, Portvale Sugar Factory, for that personal accolade. Thank you very much. We are quite happy to provide the support to you that you can continue to export quality sugar from Barbados to the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to a conclusion, to an end for our visibility webinar. We want to thank all of our persons who delivered remarks and support. But I will now pass the final torch on to my colleague, the project coordinator, Ms. Renate to deliver some closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fabian. Well, at this point, everyone, we have come to the end of our session this morning. I had planned on thanking each of our individual speakers for their wonderful contributions, insights, perspectives, information, and input this morning, but unfortunately we are woefully out of time. So what I can say right now is thank you all. We really, really appreciate that you took the time out this morning to join us. As has been said a lot recently, this is who we are. This is BNSI. These are our hopes, our dreams, our goals moving forward. Thank you, speakers. Thank you to those who attended this morning. On behalf of the entire BNSI team, we are so excited. We are so happy. We are very, very thankful and grateful to everyone who has been a part of this webinar and who has contributed to us reaching where we are right now as BNSI, and we are very enthusiastic about what the future holds for us. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and please stay safe out there.
Thank you.